If you've ever seen a shopping haul or unboxing video, you know that America loves to shop.
I did some shopping. You know, I haven't really uploaded a haul on this channel in a really long time, but to be honest, the shopping never stopped.
Shopping has never been easier. We no longer have to go to a store during limited hours, stock the aisles looking for a product, and then wait in checkout lines. Now, with the click of a button, we have the freedom to shop for anything, anywhere, and at any time.
Every day is Christmas if you buy yourself stuff online.
Products are cheaper than ever, despite having to travel across the world to get to us, which means we often buy things without a second thought.
These are $3. Uno, dos, tres. I will buy one.
So you get a dopamine hit when you buy something. It's kind of this pleasure of, oh, I'm buying something, that's fun. But with online shopping, you get that dopamine hit when it arrives too and when you open it. So it's kind of this double benefit. And so it's actually more fun in some ways biologically than buying things in the store.
This biological compulsion to shop is partly due to the way humans are wired.
So there is an evolutionary aspect to this. The people that had the most stuff were most likely to survive. So you gather a lot of food for the winter, you gather a lot of wood for your shelter. And we still have that innate desire to kind of get enough stuff to make sure that we're gonna survive.
What's the last thing you bought online?
The last thing I bought online was a milk frother for my Nespresso coffee machine.
I think I bought 5 pairs of jeans, leggings, and sweatpants.
Regular shoes.
Today, despite being surrounded by abundance, Americans are still collecting ever more stuff. In 2017, we spent $240 billion on goods like jewelry, watches, luggage, books, and phones. Twice as much as in 2002, even though our population only grew by 13% during that time. Our spending on personal care items like lotions and makeup also doubled over that time.
So we're spending 20% more on clothes than we were in 2000. The average American buys 66 garments a year, which is insane. And we're even spending more on electronics, which is really interesting because electronics are actually cheaper than they used to be. So the dollar amount that we're spending is going up, even though the cost of things is going down.
And now that we do a lot of our shopping online, returning things has become more of a hassle. One survey found that 9 out of 10 shoppers said they never or rarely return online purchases.
And part of this is because things are so cheap. You think, is it really worth $5 of my time to print out the label and go to the post office and send it back when I'm really not going to get that much money back? Why not just keep this and maybe I'll use it eventually?
Have you ever bought anything you didn't end up using?
Most things that I buy online, I feel like I don't wind up using.
A waffle maker. Yes, for college, and I never used it. It's probably still in the box in my basement at home.
Yeah, I mean, like lipsticks.
Yeah, I buy clothes a lot, and a lot of times I'm too lazy to return them.
So where does all this stuff go? Well, a lot of it just becomes clutter in our ever-expanding homes. The average square footage of houses in the US rose by 23% in the last 2 decades, while the number of storage facilities doubled. It's become very easy to donate our unwanted goods to thrift stores, which makes us feel better about getting rid of our stuff. But it's estimated that most of the clothes we donate actually end up in landfills. The average American throws away an estimated 81 pounds of clothes and textiles each year, nearly 5 times more than in 1980. We collectively threw away 26 million tons of plastics in 2015, and only 9% got recycled. Consumers continue to want cheaper goods. This means that manufacturers have to cut costs and create lower quality products.
So, you'll buy cheap clothes from H&M and they'll lose their shape after a wash or two. Or you'll even buy appliances, and where they used to last for 10 years, they last for 3 years.
This can't continue. In 20 years, the global middle class is expected to grow by 3 billion people. And we're on track to double the material resources we use by 2060. We're running out of places to put all this trash. By the middle of this century, the amount of plastic items in our oceans will be greater than the number of fish.
And this is actually becoming a problem because China is starting to say, we're not going to take your junk anymore. So all these landfills across America are going to have to figure out what they're going to do with all this stuff that people are throwing away.
Where does that leave us? The movie WALL-E predicted a bleak future where humans filled their planet with so much trash that they had to abandon it for another one. Some consumers are trying to reverse this trend, taking part in growing movements like zero-waste households.
To me, living zero waste means that I don't make any trash.
Or capsule wardrobes.
The rule of thumb is to go down to about 36 items in your closet.
Or doing a year of no shopping.
It was just about not buying things unless I absolutely needed it.
Or minimalism. Some consumers are using their buying power to encourage companies to create more sustainable products.
I should pay people a fair wage and support companies that I like.
But beyond individual choices, we could look for a more encompassing solution. Right now, we make, use, and then trash all of our materials, which can take 1,000 years to biodegrade. Companies could design all of our goods for reuse and to have multiple life cycles before finally composting back into the earth. We could start with clothing. Nearly 100% of our fabrics could be recycled into pulp and turned into new textiles. Otherwise, if nothing changes, let's hope we can make it to Mars in time.
And this new trend is called cluttercore, where it's taking all of the things that we're clinging to and now displaying it and being proud of the clinging.
Wanted to give just a couple of examples of what I'm talking about. Marie Kondo, who I'm sure a lot of people think are completely in the camp of the minimalists, but who actually isn't a minimalist and says that herself. She says, in fact, that we should surround ourselves with the objects we love, and that joy is personal. Each individual's ideal life and space will look different from the next. If minimalism is a lifestyle that sparks joy for someone, I encourage that. In the same way, if someone has determined that many items in their life spark joy, that's okay too. That's right from Marie Kondo's website. So to the extent that people think that, oh, Marie Kondo is a minimalist, I think that we need to reclaim Marie Kondo because I actually kind of love her. But what I wanted to say is that she talks a lot about how when you're sorting through your stuff and deciding what to discard and what to keep, you need to hold each object in your hand one at a time and decide if it sparks joy in your life. And if it does, you keep it. And if it doesn't, I think this is so interesting. What you're supposed to do is thank it. You're supposed to thank it for the role that it played in your life, the service that it gave you, and then you can pass it on to other people. And
I also think stuff gets a bad rap here. A lot of stuff, there's many people behind it, right? Like right. Artisans, like people who put a lot of thought and work into producing something, and it absolutely can have meaning. Even if it isn't handed down from your grandma, if somebody spent the time to make it and there's
right.
labor put into it, like it does have meaning.
Wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these kids who have really embraced cluttercore are autistic because autistic people, I mean, everybody has special interests. But I think that it's something that's especially true of autistic people. And often our special interests involve collecting things and wanting to display the things that we collect.
Only feels good to me. And I think there's a major difference in collecting stuff that you love and you're interested in, and maybe having a lot of it, and like literally having trash on the floor, right? Like there's a difference there.
Right. For example, there was this young woman named Laura. This woman was so happy and joyful with her cluttercore aesthetic, and she's in a tiny one-bedroom apartment. And she talks about her family all the time. She points to like wall hangings that her brother's girlfriend made her, and she talks about her sister bringing over plant cuttings. She collects plants. Her apartment is just full of sunlight and plants. And also she loves like flowers and floral motifs. And her mother had bought her a rack for hanging her robes over the back of her bathroom door and a little mirror. And she was talking about how her mother had bought this stuff and it was like such an indication of how much her mother understands her and knows her and loves her. Where she talks about how 90% of the stuff in her apartment has been thrifted, and the two most expensive items in her apartment cost her $150. She has really carefully curated what she calls vignettes, like the top of a bookcase or this end table, and she's really thoughtfully and using principles of design. She's a designer, created these little vignettes that she loves. It doesn't matter whether it's my taste or not. She loves it. And what's most important, it seems to me, is that it's precisely her ability to go thrifting, to go vintage shopping, and to create and design these vignettes in her home that has given her a sense of home, of being home, of having a home, and the security that goes with that. About sensory styles, which is obviously, I think, something that maybe neurodivergent people are a little bit more aware of than lots of neurotypical people are. I think that some people are sensory avoidant and some people are sensory seeking, and you can be both of those things based on different senses and even just different contexts. So, like, for example, in my situation, I'm very visually sensory seeking, and I really need like lots of layers of visual stimulation. Whereas when it comes to sound and noises, I'm super sensory avoidant, and especially when there are layers of sounds, like when it's somebody's talking and the TV's on and there's like traffic noise from outside and the dogs are barking, like all of those layers just make me feel insane.
It's easy to think of creating and consuming as if these two actions were diametrically opposed. However, creativity doesn't happen in a vacuum. Okay, that was a really bad dad joke, but when you look at makers, they are often critical consumers of the same type of work they create. Master chefs love to explore new food and have great meals. Songwriters make mixtapes of their favorite songs. The greatest architects travel to distant cities and tour buildings to find inspiration. Filmmakers are constantly watching movies, and athletes watch other athletes in their fields to discover new approaches. Fashion designers look at outfits to gather ideas, and writers are constantly reading books. Engineers study objects within their world, and artists visit museums. In other words, makers are frequently consuming, but they're doing it with intentionality. There's often this ongoing cycle that starts with critical consuming. Here you ask questions and seek out new ideas. You're curating information and geeking out on your craft. And this leads to inspiration. It might be a mashup of multiple ideas, or you might offer a fresh perspective to a known problem. Often you'll plan and design, but sometimes you play and experiment. And ultimately that leads to creative work. Now this could be solving a problem or creating a product, making performance art, planning an event, or building a system. But the more you create, the better you understand your craft, which leads to a deeper ability to consume critically, where you then find more inspiration, and the cycle continues.